This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, let me share my screen. Screen is visible, right? Okay, guys. Like, what are all the topics we saw yesterday? We saw about introduction, right? Why we need to learn about OS operating system and why we need to learn about Linux specifically and not other operating system, right? So those things we saw. Why OS, why operating system we are going to learn, and why Linux more specifically. Why not other operating system? That is why not Windows or why not Mac OS? Why specifically Linux? So those things we discussed, right? So now today we are going to discuss about what is open source, right? So okay, we know that in open source we know that the source code is open, right? Okay. Like if you have any doubts regarding yesterday's class, you can message me, guys. Okay, you can personally message me. Okay, you can personally message me, or else you can clear your doubts at the end of your session. Is it clear, Prajwal? Yes. Okay. So see here, open source means we know that the source code is open, right? Okay, what are all the other freedoms we have? We have some freedoms regarding open source. Okay, so let us see what are all the other freedoms we have over open source. Okay, let us discuss now. Okay, so first freedom is freedom of software, right? So what is that freedom of software? That is like you can download software for free. It is free. You can download software for free, right? So and anybody can download it. Yeah, okay, I will maximize the screen. Is it visible? Now is it visible, right? Yeah, yeah. So see here, you can download the software for free, right? And anybody can download it. So that is freedom of software. Then freedom of use. What is freedom of use? That is after downloading the open source software, you can use it for any of your device. There is no restrictions, right? So there is no restrictions. You can use it any of your devices. So that is the freedom of use, right? And then we have something called freedom of modify. What is that freedom of modify? That is like you can modify according to your requirement, because the source code is open, right? Anybody can view and anybody can modify, right? So anybody can modify according to the requirement. That is freedom of modify. Okay, so then after modification, if you want to share that modified version, okay, if you want to share that modified version, yes, you can have any number of copy at any number of person. That is nothing but freedom of copy. Is it clear? So then we have something called freedom of redistribution. What is freedom of redistribution? Which means like after you can use that as a new distribution. Okay, so these are the 5 freedoms we have regarding open source. Okay, so these are the freedom of open source, that is freedom of software. Okay, like freedom of modify is nothing but okay, you have something called some e-commerce website you have, that is open source. Okay, suppose if you want to develop some new application on your own using the Linux OS, what you can do is you can just view some open source software and you can modify according to your requirement and you can redistribute. Is it clear? That is nothing but modification, that is freedom of modify. Okay, so redistribution is nothing but like after copy at any number of persons, after copying some versions, you can just redistribute it. Okay, you can just introduce as a new distribution. Okay, you can use that as a new distribution. That is freedom of redistribution. Is it clear? Okay, so then okay, so next thing, how it all started. Okay, next is open source. So still now we are discussing about open source only. So the source code is open, right? So how it will started, right? So we'll see about some history regarding the open source. So how it started? Okay, so normally in 1983, if you guess, there was one OS, okay, that was famous. Okay, but the drawback was, but the drawback with Unix OS is it is not free, it is not open source. Okay, there is a OS called Unix. Okay, so during 1983 it was very famous. Under 1980s and all, it was very famous, it was widely used. But the drawback is it is not free, it was not free, that is, it was not open source. Is it clear? So due to this, it was not commonly available to the common people. Okay, general people, like general public, if they want to use Unix OS, they have to pay money for it. Is it clear? And for the developers also, they wanted to develop new application with the OS only. Okay, or if they want to use that OS in the development purpose, it's not open source, right? If it's open source, how they will be able to manage it? Is it clear? Like guys, I will explain you. Okay, I will explain you everything. Okay, after explaining, if you have any doubts, you can ask me. Okay, I will explain you everything, don't worry. I will explain you what is GNU is. Just be patient. Okay, okay. So see here, okay, if they want to develop some new application with the OS and all, if they want to use that OS in the development purpose and all, it's not open source. Is it clear? It's not open source. That is the main drawback. So they can't modify according to the requirement. So that was the main drawback with Unix OS. Is it clear? So other time, what happened is there was a person called Richard Stallman. Okay, so what he did is he was a person to make the initial announcement. So he was the person to make the initial announcement. What he made? Okay, he made an announcement to Free Software Foundation. That is, he started an initiative to start the Free Software Foundation. Okay, so objective of this foundation is to like develop free softwares and give it to the general public. So what he did is he invited developers from the worldwide and he found a community. Okay, and he found a community of developers. Okay, so that name of the community is GNU. That name of the community is GNU. Okay, the full form of like GNU is not Unix. Like there is no specific abbreviation for this GNU, but uh, but this is one community, that is, it has been developed by some developers. Is it clear, Sagana? What is meant by GNU? Did you get the answer? That is nothing but the volunteer. Is it clear? Okay, this is one community, volunteer driven community, you can tell. Okay, so the objective was to develop softwares and give for the general public. Is it clear? So lot of people, what they did is lot of people join in that community, that is developers join in that community. They started developing multiple application, right? So one of the project is to develop an OS and give it for free. They were doing it for free cost. Okay, so that was one of their project. But what happened is, but that was not always possible for them. But what happened is, so they made some patches. Okay, but it was not fully fledged. They could not able to create a full-fledged OS. Okay, they were not able to develop the full-fledged OS. So that was the main challenge they had. Okay, so what they did is, like whatever they have developed, they just made that as a open source. That is, like anybody can view that. Okay, anybody can view that. So that was not fully fledged. Okay, but smaller programs they used to upload in the internet, and they used to give it for free open source for the general public. Okay, so that time what happened is, this person, who, our person, that is Linux Torvalds. So what he did, so that time he was doing his BTech IT. Okay, he was doing his BTech IT at that time. So he wanted to develop an OS. Okay, his passion was to develop an OS. Okay, so what he did is he took a reference from this community, and with that reference, and also he personally worked on the OS. Is it clear? And with those knowledge, he started to develop the core functionality of OS. That is nothing but Linux kernel. Is it clear? So then what he did is he started from the scratch. Okay, he was successfully able to create the Linux OS. Okay, so once he made this Linux kernel, then he got the license. The license is GPL. Is it clear? So this license will be given to all the open source software. Okay, so this is nothing but general public license. GPL stands for general public license, right? So this is the license which will be given for the open source software. Okay, so once he got this license, the Linux kernel, it is being made open source, right? So first you know the history, right? Then you know the history, what happened. So that is the thing. So once it is made open source, lot of developers, what they did is they started modification. Okay, they started modifying, that is they started customizing, and lot of new distributions came. Okay, so this is how about the history, right? And then how it evolved. Okay, so what happened is, once this free software community, right, once this free software community foundation has been generated, like lot of projects was being developed. Okay, that is lot of softwares are being developed. Okay, and the Linux kernel, lot of people, what they did is they started modifying and they were customizing the OS. Okay, and they started customizing the OS, right? So here in this diagram you can see, what you can see here, Linux kernel is the core part, right? Okay, Linux kernel is the core part. Was Linux the first OS created? No, Shreya, like no, Linux was not first. Okay, before Linux we have some more OS. Okay, before Linux we have some Unix. Before that Unix we have some more thing, right? GPL means general public licensing. I told you, right? General public licensing. Okay, so see here, in this diagram, the core part is kernel. Okay, so above that application, one customization is there. Because of the customization, there are different versions, that is different distributions of Linux has been emerged. Is it clear? So that is multiple Linux systems started emerging around the kernel. Okay, so with the availability of kernel, lot of developers, what they did is they created a new distributions. Okay, and they also have created some applications that become platform independent. Okay, so lot of applications have been developed with the Linux kernel, that is nothing but that became platform independent. Okay, and based on community software, there was a group formed by the developer community. Okay, they also started developing some softwares with the Linux OS. Okay, and initially what they did is, when kernel and Linux OS is created, like normally it was only black and white screen, right? Okay, it was only black and white screen. So how it will look like, it was like a command line. Normally it was like a command line. Did you see the have you been ever seen the command line? It will be like black and white screen, right? Are you aware of it? Normally, like if you want to interact with the Linux OS or like that, you should be knowing the commands, right? You should be knowing the commands. Have you ever opened command prompt in Windows? Yeah, yeah, yes, right. Yeah, that is the thing. So there is one application in Windows, that is command prompt. Okay, that was completely command prompt interface, that is black and white screen it will be. And with that command line interface, you can also interact with the system. But the thing is, you should be knowing the commands. Okay, so for each and every option there will be a command for it. Okay, only if you know the commands, you can use that command prompt. Okay, similarly, when Linux has been developed, it was only command line interface. Okay, suppose if someone wants to use, they should be knowing the command line. Okay, because of this reason only, like lot of people were denying to use this Linux OS. That is the main drawback in those days. Okay, like normally general public will not be remembering all the commands, right? Like they will be not remembering all the commands, right? Generally they will not be able to remember or track with the system. Okay, so what happened is, initially there was some issues. Okay, and later one version, that is one distribution of Linux came out with GUI. That is one of the interface, graphical user interface. Can you guess what is that? Can you guess what is the distribution? No, Abhinaya, like each and every distribution of the kernel will vary, right? Because of the source code, they will modify according to their own requirement, right, Abhinaya? So it may vary for each and every distribution. Yeah, yeah, read that, you can tell Ranjita. Yes, yeah. But the thing, yeah, Ubuntu, yeah, yes, Ubuntu came. So at the time, what happened is, initially there was some issues. Then one distribution came out with GUI, that is graphical user interface. Because why graphical user interface normally? Like, because people could not able to remember all the commands, right? Like, for all the option to enter, they should be entering all the commands. Is it possible for the general public to learn all the commands and then use? It's not possible, right? Yes, right. So that is the thing. So the name of the distribution is Ubuntu. At first what they did is that Ubuntu, they came up with this GUI concept, that is graphical user interface. Like Windows, we also have this graphics in Ubuntu. Okay, for folders there will be some icons, start menus, there will be icons, right? So it's graphical based, right? So previously it was only command line interface. Okay, so when Linux system was developed, it was only command line interface, only black and white screen. Okay, so if the user wants to interact with the system, they should be knowing the commands. Okay, later the Linux, what they did is, later the Linux OS also came. Okay, so OS also came with GUI like Windows OS, Windows operating system. Okay, it is also having graphics. So that distribution is Ubuntu. Is it clear? So that is the one which are we going to use now. Okay, and because of this GUI, and lot of people started moving to Linux OS. So what happened? So a lot of people started moving to Linux OS. So then what about this Windows business? What happened? If lot of people started moving to Linux OS, what happened to Windows? They started, yes. So the number of users getting decreased in the Windows, right? So they are losing the business day by day. So what they did in Windows also, there is a support for Linux. Windows now, they want to retain the customers, right? Because Linux, it is highly secured, and a lot of people started moving to Linux. They wanted to stop the users. So what they did is, they developed the application which supports Linux. Okay, Linux is a open source, right? Do you agree with that? So anybody can do modifications, right? Okay, so what they did is, in their Windows 10, they introduced the features called Windows Subsystem for Linux. Okay, they developed an application, that is Linux application, that is lighter version of Linux, you can tell. Okay, that is complete OS functionality, you can tell. They developed as a software and they introduced in Linux. Okay, is it clear? Okay, so now what happened? Somehow the people will use those features, right? They will stay in Windows only. They will not move to Linux OS. Somehow they want to retain the business, and they did like this, right? So with WSL also, other way to use Windows as a general public. Like, normally if I'm using Linux OS, okay, normally if I'm using Linux OS, if I need any support, who can give only support for Linux OS? Any idea? Normally if I'm using Linux OS, if I want any support, who can give? Who can give support? Is there any organization for giving support? Okay, only community is there, right? Only community is there. Not it's not like any organization like Windows, right? Okay, yes. So it has been maintained by the community of developers only, that is volunteers, you can tell. Okay, so initially it was very difficult to get support. Okay, so suppose if there is any issue, it was difficult to get support from that community. Okay, because developers who have developed should get touch with them, right? So that was very, very difficult. Okay, so later what has happened is, lot of organization came into OS business. One such organization is Red Hat. So what happened? This Red Hat came into OS business, right? So this Red Hat came into OS business. So what happened? So how they developed? They developed one distribution, that is Red Hat Linux. They introduced that version to the general public, right? So if you use Red Hat Linux, you can contact the Red Hat or that particular organization. That is, they are having the OS is of free of cost. Okay, but if you need some support, you can pay. You have to pay and get the support from Red Hat Linux. That is the thing. Is it clear? So lot of organizations started giving support for Linux users. Okay, but the one who started is Red Hat. So they gave OS for free, but the support, if you need, you can get it from Red Hat by paying some money. Is it clear? So because of these two reasons, Linux has this GU like Windows or other OS. Okay, and we can also get support from organization. Okay, there are companies providing like support for the Linux users. So because of that reason only, like lot of people started moving to Linux OS. Yeah, like Red Hat, you can tell Red Hat is an other OS. Okay, it came into Red Hat is an organization. Okay, it started the distribution with the help of the kernel OS. It started the distribution called Red Hat Linux. Okay, like kernel is nothing but it's a core functionality of OS, Vinita. Okay, it's a core functionality of OS, you can tell. Is it clear? Like what kind of support? That is Shreya, like that is the open source, right? Okay, that is the open source. Like if you are finding any difficulty to log in, or if you're finding any difficulty to modify the code, or if you are getting any error, to whom will you get help from? To that particular organization only, right? So in Linux we don't have the organization initially, so there are only group of volunteers or developers to help, right? So then only red hat came red hat came for help. They started helping the Linux users. Okay, but we have to pay some money, that is the thing. Okay, is it clear? Yeah. So next thing, where it stands now. Okay, so now let me give you some examples where this open source software are in the area of OS. Okay, Red Hat Android. You would have aware of Red Hat, right? Red Hat Android, you know. Okay, Android, you know. And the area of database, there are lot of software, right, that will be used in the database management system. One such as MySQL, you know, OltDB, right? So these are the open source software, and in the area of server cloud. Okay, so cloud stack, open stack, you might have heard, right? So that is this is open source software. Okay, and in the area of enterprise, you might be knowing Wiki, right? You might be knowing Wiki, right? Okay, so that is open source. And in the area of consumer, Mozilla Firefox, there is something called LibreOffice. What is this LibreOffice? Are you aware of LibreOffice? Why? What is LibreOffice? This is nothing but the software package. This is nothing but the software package. Okay, like MS Office, you will be using Windows, MS Office in Windows, right? In this, you will be using Word, Excel, PPT. Okay, all those things will be available in the LibreOffice also. Okay, it is same as MS Office. Okay, so this is the open source software. It is available in Linux systems, right? Yeah. So in Windows, if you take, it will be MS Office, right? In Linux, there is an application called LibreOffice. That is the thing. So you can also create Excel, PowerPoint, all those things in the LibreOffice. Okay, that is an open source software. Okay, and in the area of education, there is something called Moodle, right? So what is this Moodle? So Moodle is one which we are going to use. Like you are going to submit assignments, you are going to write test in this Moodle only. Okay, and again, this is one open source software. Again, CMS. What is CMS? That is, CMS means content management system, right? So in the area of journalisms, there will be some applications, right? These applications are there in the journalism, that is MediaWiki and all. Okay, and if you take e-commerce, there is something called OpenCart. What is e-commerce? Any idea? Like it's like Amazon, Flipkart, right? Okay, here also, for example, if you want to develop your own e-commerce website, okay, you can, what you can do is you can download the source code of this OpenCart, and you can modify according to your requirement. Okay, that is the thing. So all these are open source, because this is open source, right? So you can view and modify the source code of this OpenCart, and you can modify according to your requirement, and you can create your own e-commerce website. Is it clear? Okay, so next slide is about the difference between open source and freeware. Okay, so open source means what? Open source means, what is meant by freeware? Open source. So okay, like what do you mean by freeware? Freeware is nothing but free of charges, right? That is nothing but free of charges. Okay, so these softwares are free, that is source code is not free, but it's not open. But in case of open source software, it is free and open source. Okay, that's what the first difference, right? So in case of freeware, we will get the software in the form of binary. What is binary? Are you aware of binary? Have you seen .exe file? .exe, what is a file format? Yeah, it's executable file, right? Binary means zeros and ones. Yeah, zeros and ones are nothing but executable files, right? So executable files means it's machine code, only machine can understand, right? Freeware will be distributed in the form of binary, which means you will get only the machine code, only the machine can understand, we can't read it, right? So freewares will be given in the form of binary file, right? So we can't get the source code, we'll get only the binary file, it is free, right? So in case of open source, we will get the source code, also it is free of cost also. Okay, like freewares, if you take any example, like okay, so freewares also like available. If you take the mobile also, like are you paying anything to download any application in Play Store? In Play Store, are you paying anything to download some application? Like still there are some paid applications also there, but after downloading, are you paying some money? No, right? No, no, right? So lot of freewares are there. Okay, so the first difference between open source and freeware is it is open source, right? In freeware it is free but not open source. Okay, if suppose if you are having one free software, you want to update that free software, you want to enhance that software in the Play Store, is it possible for you to enhance for yourself? Is it possible, guys? No, right? How you are telling no? Why no? Okay, no correct answer, but how you are telling, what is the reason? Only developers can. Yeah, it's perfect. So it's not possible, right? It's not possible. Okay, for you to enhance additional features, if you want to add also, no, it's not possible. Even if you are a developer also, it's not possible. Okay, because we don't have the source code, right? If you have the open source software, you want to further enhance it, it is possible, then it is possible. But in case of freeware, who can give you the release updates? Who can give you the release updates? Only the developer or that company can give updates, right? Only they can release the updates. Okay, and they can only enhance the application, right? Yes. So as the user, we can't do it, we can't enhance it because we don't know the source code, right? Do you agree? So in case of open source, like even if the programmers or developers like they disappear also, okay, as a user we can provide enhancement, okay, and update the software if needed. Okay, so in case of freeware, what happens in case of freeware? Like only the developer or that organization can give the update, right? We can't give it. If you are not giving, then that will be the final version of the application. Is it clear? So there won't be any further enhancement. Okay, if you want to enhance further also, it's not possible. That is the second difference, right? And freeware also, it's not free. Like first you can add the features, okay, then for additional features if you want to use, you might need to pay money, right? Like one example is you can tell the game applications we are using in mobile, right? Mobile phones, we are downloading it for free. But if additional add-ons, what happens if we need additional add-ons? We have to pay money for that, right? We have to pay money for that, right? That is the thing. Okay, we have to pay money for that. And also like lot of OTT platforms, if you see like Hotstar, Amazon Prime and all, like few movies, that is few applications we can watch it for free. Then what happens? New programs and all, you can't watch it for free, right? So you have to pay for the membership. Am I right? So all those are free, but for some extent only, not always free, right? So and there is a possibility of changing the licensing policy also. That is the last point. See here, possibility of changing the licensing policy. What is the meaning of that? One example is, you can tell WhatsApp, right? What happened? What happened to WhatsApp? Initially it was an independent organization, right? But now after this, there is a changing licensee, right? After the Meta policy, after this Facebook acquisition, right? But in case of open source software, it is always free. It will be always open source, right? So that is the difference between this open source and freeware software. Is it clear? Yes. So next is about GPL. So what is GPL? We saw, right, what is GPL? What is GPL actually? Can you please reply in chat? That is the license which is given for the open source software, right? GPL stands for general purpose license. Yes, yes. So okay, so we know that for the open source software, the licensing policy is GPL. We know that, right? So what are the rights we have for GPL licensing? GPL means general purpose licensing. General purpose licensing, right? So basic rights under this GPL, okay, is access to source code, and we can make derivative work. That is the first point it has given. What is this derivative work means? What do you mean by derivative work? That is derivative work means we can modify, right? We can modify and we can make a new work, right? Yeah, we can modify and we can make a new work, okay, new applications with this source code. Okay, so this is the basic rights we have under GPL. Okay, so next is reciprocity or copyleft. Okay, so okay, copyleft, there is a term called copyleft. Okay, so have you heard about copyright? Copyright somewhere you might have heard about copyright, right? In movies, or if you release any books, there may be in the copyright, right? Like see, like symbol in the second page of any book, new book, right? So that is copyright. So what is meant by copyright? What is copyright? Can't copy. Okay, then. Okay, like which means only this organization or developer have the ownership for that application or product. Is it clear? So that is the thing. Okay, so which means only this organization or developer have that ownership over that application or product. That is the copy right, you can tell. Okay, so what is copyleft? What is copyleft? Like copyleft is opposite to copyright. Okay, so let's say there is an open source software. Okay, let's say for example there is an open source software. Okay, uh, okay, let's say the user is developing new application. Okay, because it's not a unique work, right? Is it a unique work? When he creates some application with the open source software, is it a unique work? No, no, right? How do you tell yes? It's no, right? It's not a unique work. Okay, so we can't claim ownership, right? This is called as the copyleft. Okay, you have to give back to the open source community. This is called as the copyleft. Like even though you modify, it's not your own work, right? You took the reference, right? So that's why it should be given back to community. Okay, it should be made free. We can't sell the application, right? Also because we don't have the ownership, we can't hide it, right? It should be open source. So that's called as the copyleft or reciprocity. Is it clear? So that is the licensing policy. Okay, so the purpose is to keep the copyleft. Okay, so the purpose is to keep the copyleft. That is like to increase the amount of publicly available software. Okay, so suppose if you have open source software, like everybody can modify it, right? Everybody can modify and create new application. It will be very easy. Okay, so what happens? So if everybody started selling that again in the market, what happened? There will be lot of applications, right? The user has to pay money to use it. Okay, so just to avoid that business, like whatever you develop with that open source, you can't make money out of it. you have to give back to the community itself. Okay, so just to increase the amount of freely available software. And then there is something called ensure compatibility. So what is meant by compatibility? Ensure compatibility means like it means ability work easily with other. Yes. So you can tell like that. So like ensure compatibility means like ability to access for different platforms should be compatible with different platforms. That is the meaning. Okay, so if it is open source, we can open and we can view and make it compatible, right? So if you are developing an application with open source software, you can't claim the ownership, right? You can't apply for any patent rights, we will say, right? So what is the criteria to apply for patent? Are you aware of patent, the term patent? What is the criteria to apply for patent? Any idea? Uniqueness. Yes, perfect. It should be unique, right? Okay, it should be unique. Is this unique in this case? If you are developing an application in the open source software, is this unique? Is this unique? No, right? No. So you can't apply. It's not unique in the open source software. Okay. So, but still, other way people are making money by using the application. How? Can you tell me some examples? But still, people are making some money by using the application. Can you tell some examples? Real-time examples. Android. Okay. How? How? By working on it. Okay. What work? What is the specific work they are doing? Modifying ads. Yeah. YouTube, Fire TV. Yes, perfect. So, like in mobile phone also, they are making money, right? If you are using freeware, only lot of ads will be there, right? Yes, by ads they are making money. Okay, number of users. Any other way? Any other way? Developing clone. Okay. Any other way? The applications are free, right? The applications are free, but if you need any further enhancements or further support, they are charging for the support, right? If you need support, they will provide you the support, but that's not free. You have to pay some money. Just now we saw, right? What is the example we saw? Red Hat, right? That's how the Red Hat is earning, right? By providing support, by giving some customization software for money. Yes. Okay, so that is the example. Okay, so next is we'll discuss about Linux properties. Okay, so what has made Linux so popular? Like, what are the important properties we'll discuss? Okay, why Linux is so popular? Okay, so these are the properties. So first is multitasking. So what do you mean by multitasking? That is, so what do you mean by multitasking? Multiple works. Okay, doing many tasks, many works at the same time. Okay, yeah. uh okay, so first is multitasking, right? That is, Linux is able to handle multiple tasks across single or multiple processor. That is the meaning of multitasking, right? So it is effectively handling multiple tasks that is running on a single or multiple processor. That is multitasking, right? So that is one important properties of Linux, you can say. Okay, so then second is multi-user. What is it? Multi-user, which is the like multiple user can use the Linux systems at the same time, right? So if it is running in the server, okay, you can access it. For example, so let's consider Google server. How many users are providing these Google servers? Lot of users, right? Lot of users, they are providing, multiple users can use the same system at the same time simultaneously, right? So that is multi-user, right? Yes. Next is we have something called protected memory. What is this protected memory? Any idea? Protected memory. security, secured, related to privacy. Okay. Okay. Okay, protected memory is nothing but at last your memory should be secured, right? Memory is being secured here. Okay, how it is being secured? RAM memory has been secured like by hiding the memory to two spaces, you can tell. That is, one is user space and other is kernel space, right? So memory is protected, that's why it is secured. Okay, comparing to other operating system, here we have something called protected memory concept is there. Okay, that is the third property. Okay, that is the thing. So next is we have something called hierarchical file system. What do you mean by hierarchical first? Are you aware of the term hierarchical? Yes. So what do you mean by hierarchical? Yeah, family tree. Yeah, like hierarchical, you can tell it as, did you study data structures somewhere? You would have come across this word hierarchical, right? Hierarchical is nothing but tree like structure. How tree will look like? It will be like order, right? It will be like structured, right? It will be like very structured, right? So that is the thing. So hierarchical file system, which means in Linux every system, okay, so every system there will be some user data which will be stored in the form of files, some storage purposes we will be using, right? So how will the files are being arranged in the Linux system? It's very well organized, means like the total type of files has been split into different types. Okay, different types. Can one particular directory is for different types of files. Okay, the files will be very organized in Linux. Okay, so what is the advantage if it is very organized? Any idea? Easy to access, right? Yes, perfect. Easy to access the file systems. Okay, it will be very organized. If it is very well organized, you can easily able to access, right? Different categories has been split and different category it has been kept. Okay, if it is hierarchical, then it will be easy for the system to access it, right? That is the thing. Is it clear? So okay, if it is easy to access, what about the speed? What about the speed? It will be very fast, right? Speed will be very fast, you can quickly find out, right? So in Linux, we have very well organized file system. This makes Linux so fast. Is it clear? When we look for laptop purchase, we look only for OS, Windows, Mac OS. Why don't we have in Linux OS? Like in Linux OS, you don't have any proper support, right, Prajwal? Like if you have some support also by the Red Hat Linux, you don't, because it's an open source. Okay, so anybody can able to modify, right? If you want any support, what you will do? So that's why it's not like it is been in the market. Okay, everybody is choosing Windows. That is the reason. Is it clear? So if you want any support, you have to pay money for Red Hat distribution. Okay, Red Hat is doing distributions for support. Is it clear? So that is the thing. So see here, next slide is about Linux components. Okay, so Linux component. What is this? The diagram which says that Linux has protected memory. What is this protected memory? We saw, right, in the last slide. What is protected memory? So this diagram you will see in all the module, like as it is a basic module, we are seeing only the few component here. Okay, if you go to the advanced module, like if you go to the advanced module, what happens? You can study in detail about all the components. Okay, but for now it is enough to understand the basics. Okay, so this is the basic block diagram for the Linux component. So see here, uh, okay, so this is the memory. Okay, so this is the memory, and that is being divided into two sections. Can you be able to see? One is user space and another is kernel space, right? Can you be able to see what is user space? What is user space and what is kernel space? What is user space normally? Like user space, like all the user application, that is user programs will be running, right? All the user applications, user programs will be running. Okay. In kernel space, like all the core functionalities process will be running on the kernel space. Okay. For example, let's take an example. Okay. Let's take this. Okay. Let's take this example. This is one text editor. Okay. This is one text editor. Okay. Text editor is one user application. Note. Okay. This is like Notepad, right? So each application, it indeed needs to communicate with the hardware, right? If you want to write some text here in the Notepad, what you will do after entering text, you will be able to, you will be saving, right, after entering the text. So what it needs to do at the end, so it needs to communicate with the hardware, right? Either input device or output device or memory. Okay, let's say if you have entered some text, you have to save that in a memory. Does it directly communicate with the hardware? Does it directly communicate with the hardware? No. So then how it is communicating? This application, it won't directly communicate with the hardware. You are saying, okay, then how it is communicating? OS, right? Yeah, through OS is perfect. So it has to go via the OS. Okay, via the OS, right? Yes. So now what happens? This application is in need of the memory. Okay, so this application is in need of memory. So what happens is it will raise a request to the kernel. So it will raise a request to the kernel. So to the kernel also, this application won't communicate directly. Okay, it has an intermediate that is called as the system call interface. Is it clear? So the system call interface will handle all the user application request. Okay, so that will be received by the system call. Okay, so after receiving the system call interface, it will forward the request to the kernel. Okay, so then this will raise the service request to the kernel, saying that this application is need of this resource, like that. Okay, so then what happens? The kernel will again process. Okay, it will be allowed. Okay, as it is requesting to the memory, again it will check whether the memory is available or not. Okay, so now it will communicate with the hardware. Is it clear? So this communication will be direct. In between, what is there? In between, what is there? What we saw in the Linux component, how it will communicate? Is there any component in between? How it will communicate to the OS? What we saw yesterday while studying about components, how it will communicate between the input device and OS? What is a component in between? Device drivers, right? Yes. So drivers are there. So if any device is communicating with the OS, it will be communicating via the drivers. Okay, here also one intermediate communication is there. That's because it is a basic module. The components are split via the drivers. The kernel will check. Okay, only when the memory is available, it will return the address to the system call interface. Is it clear? So it will tell the application where it has been stored. Okay, so this information will be again communicated to the user application. Okay, then what happens? It will again raise the request and receive the reply from this system call interface. Okay, so now this is how the application communicates with the hardware, right? So the user application will directly can communicate with the system call interface, or also it can communicate with this GNUC library. What is this GNUC library? What is library files? Library files, there is something called library, right? What is library files normally? That is predefined. Yes, perfect. So that is predefined set of functions, you can tell, right? Okay, what is GNU? We have seen GNU, right? What is GNU? Okay, see, the library is predefined functions. What is GNU? It's the, we have seen in the like previous slides, right? What is GNU? It's a community. Yes, yes, it's a community, right? Yes. So it's the name of the community. Okay, so the library files has been introduced by this community, right? So that's why the name GNUC library. It is open source. It will communicate with the system call interface. Okay, there is something called GCC. Do you know about GCC? Here we don't have. Do you know about GCC? What is that? No. Yeah, it's a compiler. Okay, this is the compiler used to compile programs. It is also GNU programs, right? So again, it's an open source only. Okay, what are all the names given to open source? It is GCC, GNUC library. GNUC library is nothing but the community's project. Okay, GNU doesn't have any full form. Okay, it doesn't have any full form. It's just a community name, right? So like as the memory has been protected, there is a clear boundary between this system call interface and the kernel, right? It can run on the kernel space. This is how the system is protected here. Okay, if there is no boundary, what will happen? Suppose if there is no boundary, what will happen, guys? Suppose if there is a boundary here, right? If there is no boundary, what will happen? Any idea? Like if there is no boundary, what will happen? That is my question. Crash. Okay, like all these application will be running on the same memory, right? If the user application is not trustable, it may corrupt the kernel. Yeah, it may corrupt the kernel, right? So it may corrupt the core functionality. Okay, if it is not secured also, just because it is running in the different functionality, right? So that is how the memory has been protected here. Okay, it is becoming more secure. Is it clear? Is it clear? So next thing about next is about user interface. So what is user interface? What is meant by user interface? How do you define user interface? Any idea? User interface. How many user interface you know? Okay. So like user interface is nothing but user communicate with the hardware. Okay. Okay. User interface is nothing but you can tell it's nothing but the design you can tell, right? A design by which user is communicating with system, right? So a design, you can tell a design by which user is communicating with the system. That is user interface. Okay. So how user is communicating with the system? How the user is communicating with the system, right? So how the user is communicating with the laptop? Any idea? Okay, by some, okay, by keyboard, by, but how? Like by some interface, right? By some interfaces. So what is the name of the interface provided by the laptop? In your laptop, that is GUI, right? That is nothing but graphical user interface, right? So using the graphics we can communicate with the system. Okay, any other user interface other than GUI, you know? Any other user interface other than GUI? Command line, right? That is command line interface, right? Command line interface. Yeah, okay. So using commands also we can interact. What is a command line interface? We need to use commands, right? Using commands also we can interact, right? That is voice driven, menu driven interface. So much interface are there. What is menu driven interface? Where you can find the menu driven interface? What is menu driven? Any examples can you give? which systems you can find the menu driven interface? ATM, right? Yeah, perfect. Yeah, ATM machines, right? Then there will be menu for each operations, right? Like for example, if you want to debit, if you want to check some balance, if you want any help, right? Yeah, banking applications you can tell. Yes, perfect. Banking applications, if you want to do some credit operation, debit operation, if you want to check balance, if you want to get some help, then mobile also you can tell. What about calculator? Is it a menu driven? No. Okay. Okay, then what, then any other examples? Is it clear what is menu driven interface? Yes. So yeah, so is user, these are called as the user interfaces, right? So user interfaces are nothing but design by which the user is communicating. Okay, by which the user is communicating. If the system is there, how the user gets the communication, via by which the user can communicate, that will be the interface provider. Okay, so when it comes to system, there will be command line interface. Using commands only we can communicate with the system. That is command prompt in Windows you'll be using, right? Okay, what we will be having in Windows command prompt? Only black and white screen, right? Only black and white screen. Here also, if I want to open some files from here, I want to give some commands to launch some applications. Okay, so using these command prompt, I need to interact with the interface. That is, this is nothing but command line interface. Okay, using command line interface also you can interact with the system, you can control the system. Okay, so this is nothing but text based. This is command line interface, right? So GUI means what? It means graphics, right? That is icons you can tell. So for example, to open some applications or to open some files, I can use GUI icons to interact, right? So when it comes to the system, mostly it will be having GUI or CLI in Windows. What about in Windows? Mostly what we will be having, GUI or command line interface? GUI, right? Okay, we'll be uh, using frequently GUI only. But which is more powerful? GUI or CLI? Which is more powerful? CLI. How we are telling CLI? In Windows I'm asking. In Windows I'm asking. Which is more powerful? GUI is more user friendly, right? Okay. So it is more frequently used. It is more powerful. Okay, in Linux also we have both CLI and GUI, right? So specifically with this Ubuntu distribution, we have both CLI and GUI, right? But in Linux, CLI is more powerful and fast. Okay, so our focus is more on CLI only. In our current module also, we are focusing more on CLI only. We are going to learn commands only to get track with the system. Okay, because CLI is more powerful and fast. Okay, so whatever operation you are going to do with GUI, all those things we can do it with CLI with high speed. Okay, that's why we are learning about CLI in this course. Is it clear why we are using CLI? Okay, so see here, here we have something called, so this is the example for CLI, which is completely command based. Okay, if you want to interact with the system, then you have to give the commands in textual mode. Okay, in this module also we are going to do in CLI only. Is it clear? So this is one example. Okay, and see here, we have something called some apps based upon the differentiation between the Windows and Linux. Okay, to start with, using CLI in Linux, we will discuss some applications here. Okay, because we are going to use Linux OS only, right? So what are those applications we have in Linux? In Windows we have Microsoft Office, right? So what about in Linux? We have discussed, right? What is LibreOffice? With LibreOffice you can do, it's like you can do, you can make some PowerPoint, Excel, right? It's same as MS Office. Is it clear? CLI stands for command line interface, Madhavan. Okay, it's command line interface. Okay, so see here, and then Okay, then in the equivalent application is in Linux. Okay, that is the equivalent application in Linux. Okay, then in Windows we have something called Notepad, right? You would have worked in Notepad, right? Then what about Linux? You have something called gedit or kwrite, right? So that is the thing. And Windows we have something called Acrobat Reader. Okay, and Linux it is Ocular. Okay, using WSL will you be able to open LibreOffice? No, Shreya, you can't open it. Okay, for that application you have to install that LibreOffice. Okay, you can't directly open. Is it clear? We are not going to use LibreOffice. Okay, just know what is the equivalent application we are using in Linux. Okay, we are not going to use LibreOffice here. Okay, and then in Linux, in Windows we have Photoshop. Okay, then what about in Linux? We have Inkscape. Okay, in Windows we have something called Image Viewer, and Linux we have something called Eye of GNOME. So what is this GNOME actually? GNOME. Okay, GNOME stands for Graphical Network Oriented Model ENV. Is it clear? So GNOME is nothing but Graphical Network Oriented Model ENV. Is it clear? Okay. So see here, on Windows we have something called Outlook email, right? Outlook email. So what is this Outlook email? This is nothing but Outlook email. Okay. In Linux we have something called Thunderbird. Okay, and Windows we have something called File Explorer. You would have worked in File Explorer, right? So similarly in Linux you have something called Nautilus. Is it clear? So that is the thing. From where do you want to repeat, Vinita? I'm just saying the application names only, right? These are some application names. Equivalent to Windows, you will be having some applications in Linux, right? That is the thing I'm explaining. This is not some technical, right? So from where do you want to repeat it? GNOME is nothing but Graphical Network Oriented Model ENV. Right? From where do you want to repeat? Okay, ENV is like environment. Okay, Graphical Network Oriented Model ENV. Is it clear? Is it clear, Vinita? From where do you want to repeat? Please respond. Yeah. Okay, like GIMP is nothing but similar. You will be doing some Photoshops in Windows, right? Similarly, in Linux also you will be doing something called GIMP or Inkscape. You will be having some application for Photoshop. That is GIMP or Inkscape. Inkscape. Is it clear? Okay. So see here. Next, this is one example for GUI. Okay, so you will be having graphics to control the systems. Okay, CLI, it is only commands to interact with the system, right? So if you take Windows, we have both CLI and GUI. Okay, we are going to focus more on CLI only. Is it clear, guys? Okay, so that is the thing. So next is shell introduction. So what is shell? We'll see about shell. See here, shell is nothing but it is an application. Okay, this acts as a command interface in Linux. Okay, so it is called as a command interpreter. So what do you mean by interpreter? Normally, what do you mean by interpreter? Any idea what is mean by interpreter? Okay, Have you heard about the term interpreter? In general English, you tell, like compile line by line. Yeah, yes, translator. Yes, Akash, perfect. So translator you can tell, right? So translator. The thing is, okay. So the shell now acts as the translator, right? So what is the work of the shell? Okay, so it's like a command line interface. Okay, when we open the application, we will be going to use some commands. For example, if I'm opening this Ubuntu, okay, for example, I'm opening this. Okay, okay, see here, here the cursor is blinking, right? Can you be able to see? The cursor is blinking, right, when I open the Ubuntu. So what is the meaning of this? Yes, you can able to see, right? So the cursor is blinking. That means it needs to get some input from the user. I need to write some commands here. That is the thing. It needs to, the shell is running. That means the cursor is blinking. That means the shell is ready to use. Okay, the shell is ready to accept some input from the user. That is the meaning. Okay, so it's like a command line interface only. When we open this application, we'll be going to use commands to interact with the system. Commands means what? Commands means instructions, right? Instructions, some, yeah, some text based. You need to enter here, you need to enter some text, right? That is the thing, right? Okay, so what it will do is, whenever you execute a command, see here, this is more important, just listen carefully. Like the work of the shell I will explain you. What the shell will work. Okay, whenever you execute, okay, whenever you execute some commands in the shell, so what will happen is, it will read the command from the user. The first step is, it will read commands from the user, right? So once after reading, it will search for the command binary file. So what do you mean by binary file? Binary file, any idea what is mean by binary file? Zeros and ones, right? Yeah, it is zeros and ones. That is machine understandable code. Okay, like whenever you enter some command or execute some commands, so each command will be having some binary file. Okay, so what will happen if you execute some command in the command prompt? Okay, what will happen is, if you execute a command, it will search for that command binary file. Okay, so the next step is, it will search for command binary file. Is it clear? So for every command, there will be a binary file available in the system. Okay, so only that machine can understand. Okay, so the shell reads the command, then it will search for the particular binary file. Okay, so once the binary file is found, what happens? Once it is found, once it finds the file, what the shell will do? The shell will execute. Yes, perfect, Shreya. So it will execute, that is, it executes the binary file, right? Yes, so it will execute the binary files on the system. Once the binary file is executed, you will get the output for that command, right? That is the general idea, right? So this is the function of the shell. It's like the translator. Okay, it reads the user command and executes the binary file which the system or machine can understand. Okay, it's like a translator, you can say. So this is the work of the application. Okay, so this application is acting as an interface. Is it clear what is shell? Is it clear what do you mean by shell? What is shell? Is it clear? Everyone? What about everyone? I want everyone's answer. Is it clear what is shell? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So see here, shell is an application which works as a command interpreter. That's what we saw, right? Which is like a translator. So it gets commands from the user and it gets executed on the OS. Okay, and it also gives programming environment on the shell. Okay, so in the application, what is programming environment? Programming environment means gives a programming environment. What is that? What do you mean by the term programming environment? Any idea? Okay, coding. Yeah. Okay. See here in the application you can write scripts also. Okay, you can write programs also, like scripts using like interpreter language. That is this scripting language, right? So that also we are going to discuss in this module. Okay, so in the shell only we are going to write scripts, and it has been inherited from the Unix operating system, right? So which means what? So this application has been inherited from the Unix operating system, which was predecessor to Linux. Okay, so this is about shell. Is it clear? Okay, so shall we go to the command prompt? Okay, we'll go to the command prompt and I will explain you something. So see here, can you be able to see the screen? I will maximize the screen. So this is called as the shell, right? So this line, I'm getting some lines here, right? So what is this line is called as? This line is called as the command line or command line prompt. Command line or command line prompt, you can say. Okay, so here only we are going to enter the command because the cursor is blinking, right? That means we need to enter some commands here. Okay, okay, so this is the prompting to enter commands. So this is called as the command line or command line prompt. Okay, so here I'm getting some username, right? Sudarshan, yes. So what is this? Why I'm getting my name here? This is called as the username. Okay, which which I have logged into the system, using which name it will be appearing, right? So I have used this username ID, so I have got this name here, right? So once after installation, I've just opened this terminal and I have got this name, right? You may get you may get some same name or different name depending upon what is the name you have given at the time of login. Okay, and what is this at desktop or at Ubuntu, something it will give, which means it is nothing but the host name, right? Host name, the system name or host name. My case is desktop, right? So when you install and when you start, maybe the name may be different, right? So let's say if you have Lenovo laptop, the name will be Lenovo, some model number it will be. So if you have HP laptop, the name will be something starting with HP. If you have Mac OS, the name will be something starting with Mac and the version name maybe, right? So the name varies. This username and this desktop may vary in this case. Okay, in my case it is my name and the host name is desktop, right? Okay, and you see here it is some symbol right here. Can you be able to see what is the symbol here? Can you be able to see the symbol here? Tilt symbol. Please respond guys, can you be able to see? Yeah. Okay, so what is that? Here it is a tilt symbol. This symbol is nothing but the path. This is called as the path, P-A-T-H, path, right? So it indicates the path. It means location. You can say location, right? So where you are in, that is the path. Okay, so this is same as like it's related to Windows. What happens if you open some file explorer, right? Okay, if you open some local disk CD, what will happen in the search bar? It will be the location, like some location will be there right at the top of your Windows if you move on to some disk or some documents, right? Do you agree with me? So some path will be there, right? Okay, so if I change my directory to some other folder I'm changing, so what happens? The path changes, right? The location changes, right? So it changes the location. It tells the address where you are currently, which location I am in. okay, that you can refer in this section, right? So it gives you the path, okay, where you are in. So this tilt symbol is the separator, you can say, separator, the user commands and the command prompt, right? So this is the command prompt. So once when you get this command prompt, it is an evident that the shell is running. This means the shell is running, right? So whenever you start your new terminal or shell will be running. If I open one more than one terminal also, it's possible. See here, if I am trying to open one more terminal, you can open any number of terminal at the same time. Is it clear? Is it clear, guys? So the here also the shell is running. So in both the terminals, it execute commands. It execute commands. Okay, it execute commands. The shell is running. You can execute commands. You have shortcuts also for that. Okay. So here you can change the background color also. For example, you can go to some properties. Okay, just right click and you have some properties. You can change the background color also for it. You can change the background color. You can change the commands, command line prompt color. You can change the whatever you execute some command. It will be like some commands, right? So that is the thing. Okay, you can execute it like that. Okay, so you can change the text color also. You can also change the color later also. You can go to the settings and change the color. Is it clear? Okay, like admin, can you please log in with your full name? Like for marking your attendance purpose, I need your name, full name. Okay, can you please log in with your full name and then ask questions? Is it clear? Yeah. So which location currently it is? It is nothing but this tilt is nothing but home location. It is nothing but users home. Okay, that and all I will be explaining detail in the future classes, guys. Okay, so now you just understand it is nothing but the path. Is it clear? Yeah. Okay, so coming back to the slides and then we'll come back to the command prompt. So see here, user interfaces. What is this user interfaces? We have some types. Okay, the shell has some types. There are two types of shells. Okay, we have something called login type and non-login type. Okay, we have two types, that is login type and non-login type. Okay, in login type you will be having some login id and password. Okay, login id and password, right? So what about other is non-login type? What is non-login type? It doesn't need any login credential, that is no login id or password. Is it clear? So if we need, what happens, then we need to give the user id and password, right? Okay, we need to give user id and password. Is it clear? Okay, so based on the login type there are two types of shells. Okay, there are two types of shells. So when I open this terminal, did I give any login id and password? Did I give any login id and password when I open the Ubuntu? No, right? No. So what type of shell it is? What type of shell it is? It is non-login type, right? It is non-login type. Yeah. So this is the type. So see here, types we have login and non-login. So we will be using user ID and password to launch the shell. In case of non-login shell is started by programs. What programs? Without a login. Okay, it has been started by a program. So what is the name of the program? It is nothing but the terminal. This is terminal screen, you can say. Is it clear? This is the set of programs, you can tell. This is the terminal. Okay, so in that case the program just passes to the executable. Okay, the program will take care of it. The terminal will take care of launching the shell. Is it clear? So there are different types of shells based on the features. Okay, on the login type there are different types of shells. Based on the login type we have two types of shells. Based on the features the functionalities differs. There are, see here, there are different types of shells here, right? See here, sh, bash, ksh, csh, right? Initially I will tell you, so these are types of shells you can tell based upon the features they have been classified. Okay, first is initially they have something called sh. Okay, so it's it's very basic shell. Okay, and then next is you can tell ksh. These are the names of the shell. Okay, then you have something called zsh, and then you have something called csh. Okay, then finally you have the advanced shell, that is nothing but bash. Okay, which is going, the one which we are going to use is bash only. Okay, with this with the help of this bash shell only we are going to execute the script file commands and all. We are going to execute by using the bash only. So see here, this bash shell is the advanced shell and is the default shell also in Ubuntu. Is it clear? So this is the advanced shell and also the default shell of the Ubuntu. Okay, so these are the types of shells. Okay, based on the features, apart from, there are other shells also. Okay, that's not very familiar, but these are the famous shells based on the features and functionalities, right? So each shell will be each shell will be doing mostly 80% of work will be same only, but 20% features and functionalities will be varying. Okay, so now sh is very basic shell and bash is the advanced shell. Is it clear? These shells are mainly used for executing the commands. Okay, with the help of these commands only you are going to execute your script file. Okay, that I will be explaining later. Okay, just understand now what are the non-login shells and login shells we have. Okay, other things I will explain you later. Okay, if I tell all the things now you will get confused. Is it clear, Vinita? Just know that these are the types of non-login shells we have. Is it clear? So this is the basic one. Yeah, yes. So see here, next thing we have something called the shell invocation. Okay, let us discuss about the bash shell. Okay, as I said, bash is the advanced shell and default shell, right? So based on the features and functionalities, the shell have been categorized into different types. One such is bash. Okay, bash is the one which we are going to use. So in Ubuntu version and all, bash is the default shell. Bash will be available. Okay, bash is the name of the shell. Okay, it is like the command interpreter. Is it clear? So it's like GNU project shell. What does it mean? GNU means GNU means what? GNU means community, right? Community, yeah, community. Okay. So bash is developed by community. That's why the name GNU project shell, right? So bash, the full form of bash is born again shell. Is it clear? So this is the advanced shell and the default shell, right? Yeah. So some features of bash. Okay. So these are the features of bash. Let us discuss this. Discuss about the features of bash. Okay. One such feature is command line editing. What is command line editing? What is command line editing? Like whatever commands you are executing. Okay, whatever commands you are executing, and also you can edit some files, right? So this is called as a command line editing. Is it clear? Yeah. So this is one important features of bash shell. Okay, so the next is unlimited size of command history. Unlimited size of command history. What is that? Okay, which means suppose if you are searching in Google, you will be browsing history, no? What is the use of browsing history? What is the use of browsing history? Why do we need command line editing? Okay, why do we need command line editing is we need to enter some commands, right? We need to execute some commands in the command prompt. Is it clear, Shreya? Like for entering some commands, we need to execute it, right? So that is the purpose of command line editing. Okay, if you know some wrong commands you have entered, at that time what you will do? You will just edit your command and then execute it, right? That is the purpose of command line editing. Is it clear, Shreya? Yeah, yeah. So previously searched data, right? Yeah. Okay. So okay, recently searched websites, topics, you will get in browsing history, right? So it is same as like command history. Okay, it is same as command history. Recently, like previously, you will be executing some commands, right? Here we will get, right? So the history of past activities, that is the history of past commands, we can get it in the bash shell. Okay, that is unlimited size, which means any number of commands, there is no limitation. Okay, the shell will remember whatever commands you executed previously. Okay, so all those commands the shell will remember. Okay, the bash shell will remember the commands history. That is the meaning of this unlimited size command history. Okay. Okay, so that is one of the features of bash shell. And next is job control, which means the process will be running, right? There will be a lot of users, browsers, right? Background process will be running, right? So all this process can control from the command line by giving some shortcuts. You can start the new process or stop a process, right? And we can kill the process also sometime. Okay, we can kill some process. So all these things you can do from the command prompt itself. Okay, from the command prompt itself you can do it. You can control the process running on the system. That is called as the job control. Is it clear? So next is shell function aliases. So what do you mean by functions? Functions, normal functions. You might have heard about this term functions, right? In other programming languages, maybe in C programming languages. What is functions? Code. Okay, programs that are used for repetitive tasks. Yeah, yes, perfect. Yeah. Okay, you can tell like that. Functions are nothing but a set of programs or software only. Okay, that is set of code or set of instructions for performing some specific task, you can tell. That is functions, right? In shell application, in command line, you can write shell functions also. Okay, that is the other features of bash shell. What is alias? We have something called aliases right here. What is the term alias means? Like alias means it's like, yeah, other name. You can tell it as a nickname, for example. Okay, nickname, that is it's like a duplicate names. Okay, it's like giving different names to the existing one. Okay, aliases are nothing but user defined names. So you can call a command with a new name, that is alias. Okay, so alias commands you can call that as nickname also. Okay, different names for the existing command, or the existing command you can have a different name, right? Yeah. So as a user we can define like we can define different names, that is called as the alias command. Okay, aliases also we can do it in the shell. Okay, for the existing commands you can give different names, like shortcut for the commands. You can have right, that is alias command, right? So user defined names you can give the new name to the existing command, that's alias, right? Okay, so in the shell you can create alias commands also. Okay, how to create all those things we will discuss in detail in the further classes. Okay, so this is one feature of this bash shell. Okay, and next is indexed arrays of unlimited size. What is that? Okay, arrays, you know, right? Arrays. What is arrays? Arrays, you know, right? What is arrays? What do you mean by arrays? Please respond, guys. What do you mean by arrays? Collection of same type of data. Okay, same type of data. Maybe this term you would be learning in C programming, right? Okay, it differs for each and every programming. It may be the same data or different data, but arrays is what? Collection of data, you can tell, right? Collection of elements or collection of set of elements, you can tell, set of data, you can tell, right? So in bash shell also you can create arrays of size, that is size is now unlimited, right? So you can, that means you can have any number of data or elements stored in one particular array. Okay, so you can have array of unlimited size in the bash shell. Is it clear? So this is also other features of bash shell, right? So next is about integer arithmetic. What is that integer arithmetic? Yeah, add sub, yeah, perfect. So yeah, that is nothing but you can perform some operation, that is addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, right? So all these operations you can perform in the shell in any ways from 2 to 64. What is 2 to 64? So 2 to 64 means base 2 means which number system. You can perform all these arithmetic operation on any base. Okay, you can do arithmetic on binary numbers. You can do arithmetic on octal, hexadecimal, right? Basically from 2 to 64 you can do it in shell. So this is the other advanced features of shell. Okay, so these are the advanced features of bash shell. Is it clear? Okay, repeat point 5. Okay, okay. Index arrays is nothing but collection of data or elements, you can tell, Anirudh. Is it clear? So here in shell you can store any type of elements, any size of elements you can tell. Okay, any type of elements, any size of elements you can tell. That is nothing but the index arrays of unlimited size. Is it clear, Anirudh? Yeah, like integer arithmetic means what? We can able to perform some arithmetic operation, that is addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. There is no maximum size here, Shreya. Okay, that is what I told. It's unlimited. Any size it can hold. Is it clear? That is the thing. Okay, like index means, for example, in arrays, how will you store some elements normally? Like you will be using like this, right? Uh, for example, this is my array name. Okay, you will be storing some data here, right? For example, how will you access the array? Like by using the index value. Suppose for example, if I want to access the value 2 inside this array, so indexing always starts, there is a concept called indexing in arrays, okay, which I will be demonstrating in the further classes. Okay, so here there is a concept called indexing in arrays. Okay, here the each value will be starting with the index value 0, right? Initially it will be from 0 only, so 0 1 2. So 2 is present in which index position? 2, right? So that is nothing but indexing portion. Is it clear, guys? That is indexed arrays. Is it clear? Yeah. Okay, okay. So see here, shell usage and basic commands. Okay, so we learned what is shell and what are the types of shell. So based on login and non-login, we discussed. We are going to use bash shell only. Okay, shell features also we discussed. Okay, so by default, when you open the terminal, bash shell will be running. In Ubuntu 16 version, bash shell is the default one, right? So how to execute commands? What are the commands which we can use to interact with the system? Okay, now we are going to discuss about commands. Okay, so whenever we give commands to the shell, what the shell will do? Whenever we give commands to the shell, what the shell will do? What are all the 3 points I told you? Can you please tell me in the chat? What is the first point? What is the functionality of the shell? Read command. Yeah, the shell reads the command. Then after reading the command, what it will do? It will search for the command binary file, right? Command binary file. Okay, so then what happens? If the command binary file is found, what happens? The shell will execute, right? The shell will execute and it will give you the output for that particular command. Okay, what if the command binary file is not found? Okay, if the binary file is found, you will get the output. What if the command binary file is not found? Okay, yeah, so you'll be getting an error message, right? So in that case you will get the command not found error, which means the command binary file is not found. Okay, we'll get the error. Sometimes, for example, see here, you are executing the shell here. Okay, so let's say this is the shell. Okay, and here we have something called, if you execute some commands in shell,
Sir, voice.
Am I audible now? Please respond in chat. Am I audible now? Sorry, like internet got disconnected in the middle. Sorry for that. Now audible, right? Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So yeah. So see here. So see here, guys. Okay. So see here, like in shell, whenever you execute a command, what happen? What happens? Bash is the non-login type. That's what we saw in the functionalities, right? Bash is non-login type. Okay. So see here, if I want to, if I'm executing some commands in the shell, what happens normally? What are all the 3 points we saw? It will read the command from the user and then it will search for the command binary file, right? So then what happens? If the command binary file is found, what happens? You need to write some commands here. Okay, what happens? It will execute. If the command binary file is found, it will execute the output. Okay, for example, if the command binary file is found, you will be getting the output. Okay, suppose if the command binary file is not found, what happens? You will be getting the error message. Okay, sometimes you can even get some suggestions along with the command. Okay, some suggestions along with the error you can get whenever you execute some commands in the shell. Either this three will be happening. Okay, we also get some suggestions. It will also suggest you other command. You might, so you might have seen this, right? Did you mean option in Google search? If you spell some words, you might get this question in Google, right? Have you seen? Yes, right? So what is that? It will yeah, it will give you some suggestions, other websites, right? It will give you. So similarly, shell also it's very smart. If the command binary file is not found, it will get you a error. Sometimes we'll get we'll get the suggestions. Is it clear? So if you execute the command, either of the three will happen, either output or error or with error or suggestions, right? That's what this thing, right? Okay. So okay, so basic shell commands. Okay, so we'll open the terminal and let's start with writing some commands here. Okay, we'll just learn. Okay, so let's start with command. So this is my command prompt, right? So I have opened my terminal. Okay, here my shell is running. Why? How I am telling my shell is running? Because the cursor is blinking, right? That means the shell is getting ready. The shell is ready to get some input from the user, right? So now let us execute some commands. Let us see whether the command is valid or not. Okay, for example, I am new to Linux, right? I am new to shell. Okay, I don't know any other thing to enter. Okay, so I'm entering some commands here, right? Some ABC I'm trying to execute. So what happens? Let's see, right? So what is happening? If I execute, I'm getting some error, right? If I execute ABC, what I'm getting? ABC is not a valid command. It's not a valid command. Okay, command not found. Yeah, because the command binary file is not found, right? So whenever, what happens, whenever I execute a command or text in the command prompt, it will search for the command binary file. If the command binary file is found, we'll be getting the output. So here, if it will search for the command binary file whenever you execute a command. If the command binary file is not found, what happens? Error is getting printed. Can you be able to see? Along with error, we are getting something, right? What is that? Suggestions also I am getting, right? So what is this? Command AB, AJC, AEC, ABX, what are those? Okay, suggestions. Okay, so can you be guess what is this? Suggestions from what? So see here, I might, yeah, like maybe I might get the alias command. You would have created the different name. No, okay. In the place of ABC, you would have created some different name. Possibly, I might have created some alias name for that. Okay, so that is that. So that's why I'm getting command not found error only. Okay, it's not a valid command. Okay, so and along with that, what we are getting, this is suggestions. We are getting error plus suggestions. Okay, so that is the thing. Okay, okay. So now, if I give some other thing, some other I am trying to execute, for example, like this. Okay, I don't know what is command. Okay, I'm new to Linux, so I'm trying to execute. Just trying what are all the commands possible. Okay, if you buy some new mobile phone, what you will do? You'll just go to the settings and you'll just browse it, right? What are the settings we have? You'll do some homework, right? So that is the thing I'm doing now. Okay, I'm just checking what are all the possible things are there. Okay, if I'm trying to execute this, what will happen? Okay, now I am getting only error, right? What is the error? If I'm trying to execute some random characters I typed, and then some command not found, right? Okay, what is this? So this case is a error, command not found. If there is a similarity, we will get the suggestion. If there is no similarity, there will be no suggestion. We will simply get the command not found error. Okay, so this is also a command not found error. Okay, so let's say, okay, let's say we'll move with the basic command. Okay, now uh, now the screen is very congested, right? Can you be able to see? The screen is very congested, right? The screen is very congested. Okay, so if I want to clear the screen, to clear the terminal screen, we have a command called clear, C-L-E-A-R. So if I execute this command, see, the screen is cleared, right? Okay, so it's a valid command. What happened? The screen has been cleared. So this is one command to clear the screen, right? So when I execute this clear command, did I get anything on the screen? Which means, did I get any output on the screen, any data? No, right? No, nothing is printed, because for this clear command, it's not an output. Some actions has been happened, some clearing the screen has happened, right? So now output is not always something printing on the screen, right? We should change this ideology. But when you come to this command line, output is not something it is printing on the screen. Now what happened? The screen has been cleared, right? So in this case, this is some action. Okay, clearing the screen has been happened. That is the thing, right? So when we execute the command, the shell will reach the command and search for the command binary file, right? And once command binary file is found, it will execute the OS. Okay, if the command binary file is found, we will get the output. Is it clear? So some clearing the screen or some actions have been performed here. Okay, if the command binary file is not found, then we will get the error. Sometimes we'll get the suggestions. So this is the work of this shell. Is it clear? Okay, so now, yeah, so now let us now start with some commands. Okay, so whenever I open this terminal, I'm getting this command prompt, right? So if I want to, normally if I want to okay, normally if I want to check which location or which is my current path, okay, which is my current location I need to find. Okay, which is the current location I need to find. To get this information, we have a command called pwd. Okay, so this pwd means print working directory. Okay, see here, if I execute this, what happens? I'm getting the, we are getting the location, right? This is like location. What is this actually? It is like looking like path, right? Right? So this is like path. So this will give you the location. Okay, so this is nothing but a current working directory. So when I say directory, what is directory? In Windows, we will say folders. Okay, in Windows, we will say folders, right? but in Linux we will say directories. Is it clear? Yeah. Shreya, like those things and all I'll be explaining. Okay, if I explain this, you'll be confused. Okay, tilt is nothing but users home directory. That is the users home directory. That is my name. Is it clear? So I will explain you everything. Don't worry. Okay, PWD is nothing but print working directory. This is my current path location. Is it clear? This is my current path location. So this is nothing but users home directory. This tilt is users home directory. What is my user's name here? Sudarshan S is my user's name. Is it clear? Yeah. So to check, I have given this PWD, right? Okay. So if I want to check what is inside my current working directory, so inside this slash home slash Sudarshan S. Okay. Home is different and users directory is different, Anirudh. Okay. Those things and all I'll be explaining. Okay. So this is users home, users directory. Home directory is different. Okay. So I'll be explaining you everything. Okay, so don't worry. So suppose for example, if I want to view some contents, there will be some contents inside this directory, right? Okay, so inside this, what are all the files, what are the other data I need to find? Okay, is there in my current working directory, right? So for viewing the files, we have a command called ls. Okay, ls. So ls means it will list the content of current working directory. Okay, see here, if I execute, what happens? I am having some many list of files and directories. Is it clear? So current directory is like that slash home slash username. Okay, so see here, it has both folders and files also. So how can you differentiate which is the file and which is the folder? Okay, without extension also I can create files, but how will you differentiate whether it is, yeah, based upon the color, right? So yes, perfect. So blue color will be differentiated as folders, that is directory. Okay, and this black color is nothing but normal regular file, you can tell, normal regular file. Okay, yeah, and something, we have something called green color, right? Why green color? This is also a file because we are having the same extension. .sh is not directory. .sh is file only. Okay, we need to create a file in shell with the extension .sh. .sh is nothing but it is having the bash shell. That's why we are having the direct extension .sh. .sh is a file. Okay, so green color is nothing but it's an executable file. Okay, this black color is nothing but normal regular file. This green color is nothing but the executable file. That means this green file is having the executable permission. Yeah, permission. Okay, executable permission. Like whenever you create a normal file, new file, you will be having some three set of permissions: read permission, write permission, and executable permission. Okay, so these files is having the executable permission. That is why it is in green in color. Okay, this black color files are not having executable permission, so that's why it's in black in color. Blue will be directory, that is like folders. Is it clear? Okay, so yeah, so okay, so this green file will be file with executable permission. Okay, so there is other way to differentiate files and folders also. That's an that that and all, you will be having some options. Okay, so those options uh, with those commands will be seeing in the next class session. Okay, tomorrow we'll see the class sessions of those things. Is it clear, guys? Okay, guys, like we'll wind up the session for today. if you have any doubts, you can WhatsApp me, guys. Okay, you can WhatsApp me individually, not in group. You can WhatsApp me individually. Is it clear? Yeah, you can WhatsApp individually. If you have any doubts, you can WhatsApp me individually, guys. Okay, we'll wind up the session for today. You can leave the session, guys. Tomorrow we'll meet. Okay, if you have any doubts, just post those messages through me, WhatsApp individually. Is it clear? Yeah. Like my number is 7550264424. It's in group, right? 7550264424. Like attendance, will be taking attendance based upon the attendees list. Okay, so you don't worry. Yeah, I will share the PPTs. Yeah, I'll share the PPTs at the end of the day, before the end of the day. It's 7550264424. Okay, you can WhatsApp me individually. Okay, with your doubts. Recorded session, I'll be posting in the group at the end of the day. Is it clear? It's not in LMS. I'll be posting the recorded session after some after a day. Is it clear? Yeah, like any doubts you can WhatsApp me, guys. Okay, okay, guys, like we'll wind up the session for today. You can leave the session. Thank you.